Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm bringing you three awesome, well not six, but three awesome tips on my updated foundation routine. Go ahead and get started. The first thing I have recently been trying out, and it's a method that I've seen other YouTubers do. One in particular is Jackie Aina. I believe that's how you say her name. Forgive me if I said it wrong. But she basically goes in and preps her skin with powder for oil control in the T-zone area or wherever really you get oily. So for me, I'm going to be using my Jafra translucent matte powder. So this is actually a pressed powder. And yes, again, I am a Jafra beauty consultant, so I'll provide you guys with a link to my website so that you can purchase that. Let me back up a little bit. Even if you have oily skin, it's very important to still moisturize, because what's going to happen is your skin is oils are going to overproduce because you're making up for the lack of moisture. Always important to moisturize. I'll provide you with another link also on my skincare routine, and you'll see exactly what products I use since I have combination skin. My skin is already prepped. Now I'm just going to go in with Jafra. And again, this is their matte translucent powder. And I'm just going to be using the sponge that it comes with. And I'm going to apply that in pressing motions along my forehead, around my nose. Another thing, this also helps minimize the appearance of pores. So we just want to make sure you work that right into there. Now, if you guys don't know already, I am not a fan. I've never been a fan of primers. I've used them in the past, but it's not something that I felt like did anything for me. Once that's done, we're moving on to foundation. So the second thing that I'm going over in this video is NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. Can you guys hear the rain? It's pretty crazy out there. So for me, I'm actually mixing two shades. I'm mixing Barcelona and Syracuse. Now I used to have the other foundation, the All Day Luminous, I believe that's what it was called, All Day Luminous Foundation, and that I was in the shade Syracuse, but at the time I was very tan, so since I'm not so tan, I went and bought Barcelona first. But when I bought Barcelona, and I'll show you guys, it was a little too light for my skin. So instead of going the next shade over, I decided I will mix. So I always like to mix my foundations anyway. So I went a few shades back up, especially because NARS now has they added new shades into their collection. I just went ahead and stuck with what I knew. And so this is the shade Syracuse and this is the shade Barcelona. So for me, I have to mix these two shades to get my natural color. So since I would say that I'm mostly the shade Syracuse. By the way, this does have more of an olive undertone, the Syracuse shade. So that's why, and I think I have a lot more olive in my skin than I do yellow. So I use 2 pumps of Syracuse and 1 pump of Barcelona. Now, when I was trying out this foundation, when I was using the Barcelona by itself for a while, I was using it with my Real Techniques buffer brush, but I noticed that whenever I would apply it with this, it would leave patchy marks because this foundation dries pretty quickly and it dries to a semi-matte finish. So I do not recommend applying it with a brush like this. Instead, I went in with a flat foundation brush. Yes, this one's dirty too. But applying it in brush-like strokes and then patting it in really made a big difference. It looked a lot more natural. It felt better, and I had more time to work with. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So here are the 2 shades mixed on my palette. And I always start at the cheeks and work my way down. This foundation is pretty full coverage, so a little does go a long way. I do not apply any foundation right under the eyes. I do like to leave that area bare for concealer. Unless, like, for example, in my makeup for work tutorial, if I'm in a rush, then I'll just bring this right up and I'm out the door. So once the first layer is done and applied, I'll go back in areas where I feel like need a little bit more coverage, and I'll start to just pat that in. So now I'm going to go and color correct under my eyes. Nothing new there. I'm just applying it directly in the hollows because that is where the darkness is. But be careful if you are using an orange corrector. Be careful not to put so much. If you put too much, then you could see it through the concealer. And I'm blending that out using a TNT S154 brush, the mini brush from the mini set. And again, that's brush 154. For concealer, this is very key for me. I used to use the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealers in the shades Ginger and Custard, but I felt that those were a little too thick. So as I'm getting older, unfortunately, I can see more lines underneath my eyes if I apply too much makeup or too much powder. And so that is where makeup tip number 3 comes in. So the first step is you choosing a concealer that's not so thick and so heavy. So unfortunately, you can only have one of two things. Number 1, you either cover the darkness with a thick concealer, or 2, you use less concealer so that you don't look as wrinkly under there. The reason why I say that is it all depends on how you set under the eyes. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But for me, I've been using my Maybelline Fit Me concealer, and I just get these from Walgreens or Walmart or CVS. Any drugstore basically would carry this. I recently just put my sister on this and she was hooked. It made such a difference. She's 6 years older than me, and it made such a difference in her under eyes. They looked a lot smoother, and she didn't need to apply so much powder to set either, and everything, it did not look cakey at all. So for me, the shades that I use is 25 and 20. So I'm going to start off with the shade 20, and that's what I'm going to apply right in the hollows. And then on the remainder areas where the orange corrector is at, and directly under where I placed the shade 20, I'm going to apply that shade 25. Also going to use that to highlight down the bridge of my nose and on the center of my forehead, and also in the Cupid's bow. I don't like to do my chin area because it turns ashy if I don't color correct, and I'm not trying to apply so much product on the face. I'd rather color correct with powders, and you'll see that in a little bit. Now, notice I did not apply the concealer directly right up under the lash line, and that is because I plan on smoking that out. So if I did not plan on applying any eyeshadow to the lower lash line, then I will bring it up. But what's the point of bringing the concealer up there when you're going to smoke it out anyway? It's just a waste. So using the same flat foundation brush that I applied the foundation with, I'm going in and just patting the concealer in place. You don't want to swipe. If you swipe, then you'll move around the concealer and expose the orange corrector. Once I've blended out the majority of the bottom part, I'll work my way up towards the lash line. So up until recently, I actually stopped contouring altogether with cream products or liquid products. I was using the LA Girl Pro Concealer in the shade Beautiful Bronze. But again, I'm not really feeling all this extra makeup on top of my skin lately. I don't know. Also, I do not like the look of a super bright under eye. It doesn't look natural to me, and I hate to use that word because there's nothing really natural about my makeup, but I don't like the way it looks. It just it doesn't look good to me. Even though I was using a lighter shade of concealer under there, you saw how I blended it in to the foundation. So now we're gonna go in and set, which is still part of key number 3, or tip number 3. First thing you wanna make sure is that you've patted away all the creases. You don't wanna set those creases. So now I'm gonna go back in with my Jafra translucent matte powder, and I'm picking that up on a Real Techniques contour brush, and I'm making sure to coat all sides of the brush. We're gonna do the pat and roll technique. This technique I just started doing. I learned from King Molly Magic. She's on Instagram, and she talks about it all the time, and it makes such a huge difference. I'm gonna pat all right under the eye. I'm gonna pick a little bit more up, and now I'm going to roll. Again, that's pat and roll. We're going to repeat the same process in the T-zone area and everywhere that we get oily. Although when it comes to the smile and laugh lines, although I don't get oily there, it can break up a little bit throughout the day. Now moving on to a large powder brush, and this is also by T&T Cosmetics, and it's the brush number 300, but again this is from their mini collection. And I'm just going to pick up some of that same powder, and I'm patting it all into the skin. For a little bit more color, I'm going in with the shade Topaz from this Ben Nye Media Pro HD Mojave Powder Palette. And yes, I said Topaz. I used to bake with the shade Banana, the banana powder, the infamous banana powder that everybody uses. But I felt like it was a little too ashy for me. Topaz is a little bit more warm, and I like the look of warmth underneath the eyes. So I'm just going to apply that directly under the eyes. Also going to apply that around the chin. Like I said before, my chin does get a little bit ashy if I don't color correct, which I didn't in this case. And now I'm going to go in with 2 shades from this same palette in the color Honey Spice and Moroccan. And I'm still using my Real Techniques contour brush, but this time I'm using the tips of the brush only. And I'm going to start to bronze up the skin slightly. Pushing and patting that in place. Not doing so much of this. Bring that along the temples and along the forehead, making sure that it blends seamlessly into the hairline. When it comes to the jawline, I do go back and forth in little circular motions so that it blends seamlessly into the neck. Switching over to a tapered blending brush, I'm going to pick up those same 2 shades, Honey Spice and Moroccan, and I'm going to slightly contour my nose. What I like to do is pinch the tips of the brush, and I start at the tip of the nose also because that's where it's the most bulbous. As it goes up, it gets narrow, and I make sure to blend that right into the crease. For a little definition, I'm going to go back in with my Jafra translucent matte powder, and I'm picking that up on a pointed Real Techniques foundation brush. And I'm just going to apply powder to the outer parts of the contour, and this is just going to sharpen it up a bit. I'm going to do the same thing right under the contour for the cheeks. So I'm going to finish up the rest of the face. I'll apply some highlighter, I'll finish up my under eyes, some blush, some lipstick, and I'll come right back with the finished look. Okay, so that's the finished look. Basically, everything else remained the same. I will say that things look better whenever I'm powdering in that way versus when I'm powdering with a loose powder all over. things go on a lot more smoother, and it doesn't feel as powdery and as cakey. For example, the highlight. When I applied the highlight before, there was so much powder that I would have to spray the area or spray my brush before I could apply the highlight. And now I could just apply it softly and it blends seamlessly into the skin. The powders itself, the Ben Nye Mojave Powder Palette, those powders are awesome. They make the skin feel so smooth. Also, when I apply my blush, I literally just apply it. Here, I'll show you. I'll apply it literally on the apples of the cheeks and I'll pat it in. So everything when it comes to face is all about patting, and when it comes to powder, it's patting and rolling. So yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing a tutorial on this eye makeup, let me know in the comment sections down below. This is something that I actually wore for my baby shower and for my maternity photo shoot. But the main purpose of this video was just to show you my new and updated foundation routine. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.